Come on. Maybe come a little closer since it seems like a big echoey hall. That'd be great. Thank you. Here's our hymnals songbook. Can you pass these? Jai Ma. Mangalam Gurudevaya Devi Matriksha Mangalam Mangalam Bhakta Brindebhyo Sarvalokaya Mangalam Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Sarupine Avatar Varishtai Ramakrishnaya Mangalam Om Sarashiva Samarambam Shankarachara Majamam Ashmarachara Prayantam Vande Gurum Param Param Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwara Guru Deva Param Brahman Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Om Bhadrakali Namo Nityam Saraswati Namo Namaha Veda Viranga Veranda Vejastana Evacha Sri Ganesha Sharada Guru Bhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma. I think she needs a one. So we're continuing our discussions on the 1,000 names of Kali, Kali Sahasranāma. We've been talking for some years, slowly going through name by name. We're now on, in the sloka form, we're on verse 40. We finished 39 last week, or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever it was. And so, Daima. So, and on name 320 is where we are. So you can see it's been some years and we're only on name 320 out of 1,000. So we chose the Sahasranāma as a great way to speak about Kali for a long time. We chose it, if I choose a, like an ashtakam, 8 verses, well, you get maybe 2 weeks out of that. This gives a good, inexhaustible topic of discussion. And we've mentioned in the past, just to warm myself up, is the glory of 1,000 named hymn. There's a common 100 named hymn or 108 named hymn, shatakams, and then there's 1,000 named hymns. And many deities have more than 1,000 named hymn. Like I was mentioning, I think last week or last time, and we have, I think, at least three Kali Sahasranāmas, where most of the names are not shared. There's some shared names, or many names. So it means so another way of saying 1,000. When you say 1,000, is almost like saying unlimited. So this is 1,000 out of unlimited qualities of the deity. So the way I poetically put it in my head is that this is 1,000 names of she who is known by thousands, by innumerable names. Right? And so, so many names where some of the names are based on our iconography. Some are based on tantric philosophy and theology and practice and ritual. Some are ontological and psychological with the nature of reality itself, that she is. Many are connecting Kali with other goddesses. Like for instance, within the Kali Sahasranāma, the name Saraswati is there, Matangi is there, Chinnamasta is there, Dhumavati is there, Pratangira is there, Lakshmi, Padma, Padmavati, Padmalaya, Padmasana, all these things. So many names of Lakshmi and many names of Saraswati, many names of various deities are there. And in that sense, connecting Kali with those deities, right? Also, it's also showing from the sectarian nature of the Sahasranāma. They're meant for a particular devotional community. Here, Kali worshippers, right? Showing that these other goddesses are aspects of Kali, right? In the Lita Sahasranāma, the same Kali is listed, and Lakshmi is listed, and Saraswati is listed. And from the Sri Vidya tradition, Kali and the other deities are seen as aspects of Lalita, right? So there's that going on within the text. So in this verse 40, I'll chant a little out of practice, please forgive me. Satyavatī dharma-niṣṭhā śreṣṭhā niṣṭhura-vādinī gariṣṭhā duṣṭa-saṃhartī viśiṣṭā śreyasī ghṛṇā. The first name satyavatī. So there's another thing that happens as we get these different versions of the traditions of the text. There are differences between different versions. I have several texts of this Sahasranāma, and sometimes there's differences. In the one that primary one I usually copy and paste from when I'm trying to get the verses is from Swami Bhajanananda from Devi Mandir, and sometimes there's differences from other ones. In his translate volume, verse and the first name is not Satyavatī but Saraswati, and so I was actually preparing. I have in my notes a bunch of things on Saraswati, right? But we've given 3 talks, 3 different names: Saraswati and Nila Saraswati and Matangeshwari and Vageshwari. These names were names of Saraswati already dealt with. So rather than going back and talking about Saraswati, I looked at the alternate form of the text, and there the name is Satyavatī. So since we haven't mentioned Satyavatī, I figure we'll follow that form of the text of the version, Satyavatī. So the names, this has a group of certain names: Satyavatī, dharma-niṣṭhā, śreṣthā, niṣṭhura-vādinī, gariṣṭhā. We'll start with those. Satyavatī. So Satyavatī, the core of the word there, the core of the name is Satya. Satya means truth, right? And Satya, it could be something, truth as in it's real, that it has an ontological reality. So sometimes truth, Satya, is that which is real, right? That's one meaning, right? I think usually in the way it's usually connected to Satyavatī is as in speaking the truth, something that corresponds to a reality, not like the truth. Like Satya is like Satchitananda, like the truth. But here it's like, oh, that's Satya, I mean, this is Sat, that is, the statement you're saying is correct or not a lie, a true statement. Satyavatī is a woman who speaks the truth. That's the name for Satyavatī. There are several characters in the scriptures, in Mahabharata and other scriptures, where there's a character Satyavatī, and maybe this text is saying, oh, that important character that we know in our Puranic and history, spiritual histories, that's really Kali. So maybe it means that. But I have a feeling the character Satyavatī is not obviously connected to Kali in any real way. So I think we take the name as a nature, that Ma is one of her names, is she who speaks the truth. And so one of the interpretive principles that we discuss on all these names is sometimes the names can be taken as these are her qualities, or we can take it ontologically as she is the thing itself. So you can say, oh, she is a woman, Ma Kali, there she is, right? We all love her, who speaks the truth, right? She's truthful. But it also means that she is a truthful woman. So whenever a woman is truthful, right, that is a manifestation of that aspect of Kali, right? It depends if you want to think of these things as qualities of Kali, right, or as the very nature of different descriptions of different states that are her, that are also her. The example I often give is like actually even here, they'll think like she who's angry or she who's fierce. So you can say, oh, or she who's blissful, but that also means she's bliss, or that she is fiercefulness, or she's anger, not just she's angry, right? She's the thing itself, right? So we can take both of these things. Satyavatī can be taken both things like that. But even actually, I have to probably correct myself. When I mentioned Satyavatī, the character Satyavatī in the Mahabharata, her story is, I'm not going to tell her story, it's a long story, but her story is elaborated in the Devi Bhagavatam. And there actually different names are given to her. One of her names is Kali. right? I think probably because Kali also means dark, and I think Satyavatī in the story had considered a darker skin. Part of her part of the story is her dark skin. So her name, maybe Satyavatī, the character, is connected to Kali. That I don't know. Satyavatī. Dharma, so Satyavatī, a truthful woman. So some of these names can be taken together as, and even the previous verse, which I didn't have, it's not on the sheet that you have, are qualities. I think what the names were like Kri and Laja and Vilaja. These are culturally feminine qualities in Indian tradition of modesty, of devotion to the family, things like this. There's names like that, devotion to the husband. Then there's names like Vilaja, she who is not the opposite of that, right? So these are both her qualities, both are her qualities. So this list could also be describing Satyavatī in the same category that showing Ma as both her quality in the stories as this dignified, the dignified goddess with a dignified history and family, but also the opposite of that. She's not always in that role, in that role, right? So here Satyavatī is with this category. Other names will show other aspects of her, right? Maybe these could be describing qualities of a dignified, disciplined, cultured person, right? Satyavatī. Because the next name, dharma-niṣṭhā. Dharma-niṣṭhā is something else you'd say to a very elegant, dignified, proper woman, or a proper man, is dharma-niṣṭhā, one who is devoted and fixed and dedicated and to dharma. Dharma-niṣṭhā. Devoted. So then we have to think, what is dharma? Of course, dharma, this is like the classic word everybody starts at. There's no translation for dharma, and you start by giving the root is to uphold, and you start expanding on that. But generally, we think of dharma, and dharma is used within the Indic tradition in 4 or 5 core ways, and dharma-niṣṭhā could be considered in all these ways, right? It's something's essential quality or character, right? Its own nature, like the dharma of fire is to burn, the dharma of water is to flow or be wet, right? So dharma in that sense is something's own nature, right? There's another aspect of dharma is one is in conformity with laws, right? Either natural laws or religious laws, scriptural laws, societal laws. That is dharma, right? Dharma can also mean virtue, whatever we mean by virtue. Dharma, in some sense, could be religion. That's often how it's used. The Hindu dharma or Buddhist dharma, we mean religion in a general sense. This term religion is a Western term that the Eastern dharma is not an equivalent, right? But they're not if we mean by dharma what we mean, somehow know we mean religion, it can be mean like that, right? It could mean law. It could also mean the doctrines, somebody's doctrines, like the Buddha Dharma, the teachings and doctrines the Buddha taught, right? Like that. So there's different ways it can be understood. In which case, dharma-niṣṭhā is somebody who is devoted and fixed and focused and unswerving, unwavering in their in dharma. So they're following naturally the expected laws of the land, or the laws of religion, or the laws of our culture, or laws of our family, whatever that means, right? Or virtue of religion, of right. Sometimes dharma is used as righteousness. That's sometimes these are things you see in translations. Because adharmic is unrighteous, right? Adharmic is not exactly unrighteous, but that's within the flavor of the meaning. Yeah. So one is, and the word niṣṭhā is a very nice word. We use it a lot in the devotional tradition, right? Means fixed adherence, right? or resolve. And so we use it a lot. We have a term like, what is it? Ishta-niṣṭhā. That's a term used in our devotional world. That one-pointed or focus attention on one's deity, right? And sometimes so it means that we're focused on one's that Ishta. He has great niṣṭhā to his deity, so he's very devoted to Krishna, very devoted to Kali. Sometimes it's used in a very sectarian way, that they're only devoted to their deity and to no other deity, right? And so we can see, within certain traditions, that's considered a virtue, right? That the way you show you're so devoted to one deity, you have no interest in other deities, right? Of course, there are schools in the Smarta tradition and some of the liberating types of teachings like of Sri Ramakrishna, Nandamoy Ma, Neem Karoli Baba, that kind of expand the idea of niṣṭhā, where to be a devotee of Ram doesn't mean that you never bow to another deity but Ram, right? That's how it would be interpreted. In an example of the Sri Vaishnava tradition, right? And part of their thing is Sharanagata. You take shelter in Vishnu, part of Diksha. So you take shelter of Vishnu means that if I take shelter of Vishnu, that means I don't need shelter of anybody else. Right, so that means from that day on, you'll never enter a Shiva temple. Right, so, and that's considered, that's an example of great niṣṭhā. See how devoted they are. They won't even look at another deity. They'll never bow to another deity. They don't take shelter of any other deity. They're solely devoted to Vishnu. Right, and I think in the modern world, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. It has a little bit of a fanatical quality to it. Potentially it's okay, but I think there's more danger than virtue in this attitude. Rather, so Sri Ramakrishna and others have encouraged us to see the one that we call Vishnu, right? Is also the one Shaivites call Shiva, or Shaktas call Kali, or Vedantas call Brahman, right? Christians call God or Jesus, like this. He himself said like that the one I call Kali is the same one that the Vaishnavas call Krishna, right? And like that. Right, so then his example of niṣṭhā, he was very much focused on Kali, but not in an exclusionary way. Although he's entirely focused on Kali, right, on his ishta, right. But his understanding of his ishta was not bound by the traditions of sectarianism. So anyways, that's the idea of niṣṭhā, and then dharma-niṣṭhā. So then for dharma-niṣṭhā, we mentioned a few definitions of dharma. What are the ways dharma are known? And something we are a little, I think this is a Western tendency, right, to I can't say overestimate our own intuitive virtue, the virtue of our intuition, right? But there is a thing is that whatever our sense of righteousness is dharma, right? That we know it in our heart where dharma is, right? And I think this is a very beautiful thing, hopefully. And Baba Haridas, one great yogi we had the blessing of knowing, he says actually this only works when the mind is pure. When the mind and heart are pure, then the mind and heart can guide one in dharma, right? He says, but actually the mind says, I'm following my heart. He says the heart and the mind is just, the heart, he says, by yogic definition, is an impure mind, right? That's what we call the heart, until it's purified, right? So it's not always trustworthy. Just I think, but I think that it's very hard for me as a modern person, right, to says like religion says this and your heart says something different. Your heart's impure and therefore follow what the religion says. That's a really strange thing to sell, right? We have to massage it a little bit, right? But that idea of where dharma comes from I'll give the kind of the classic scriptural criteria, right? And I remember verses in translation, but I don't remember, I couldn't this is from this Purana or this is from like that. So I'm being a little bit messy, so please forgive me. I'm just trying to remember this. I just sat down at the computer a little while ago. It's like, I should probably say something about this verse also. Right? It says that dharma is known through shruti. It means this is a very orthodox view. Dharma is known from the scripture, right? Like in the Gita, Krishna says he says that they know not talking very harsh critique of the asuric nature. They don't know what is to be done, what is not to be done, right? And then at the end of that chapter, he says, "Therefore, O Arjuna, right, let the Shastras be the guide for what is to be done, what is not to be done. In other words, follow Scripture. You know Dharma from in the Orthodox way. You know Dharma through the Scripture, through the Vedas, the high Scripture, the revealed Scripture. If it's unclear, maybe we don't know what the Scripture says, or the Scriptures are unclear. There are things going on right now in our modern moral universe that the Vedas don't address. So the Vedas aren't going to guide us in any concrete way of what's to be done, what's not to be done in certain modern dilemmas we find ourselves in, either culturally and technologically and governmentally, but also sometimes personally, right? Then you look at other scriptures, the Smriti, right, like Puranas and like that. Maybe they'll give us some guidance. And if those don't give us proper guidance, then we should look to the tradition itself, right? And if tradition doesn't give us answers, of course, sometimes it doesn't have answers or it doesn't give the answers we want. Sometimes it's that. That's usually how it works for me. If it doesn't give the answer I want, I keep looking. But if it doesn't have an answer, then you look to, what's the term is, aptos, a knowledgeable person, right? An expert, either an expert in tradition, expert in the scriptures, expert in the Vedas. So the Vedas may not say what to do, but you go to a Vedic expert or a scriptural expert. In this situation, how do you think what should be our action, right? And if that doesn't work, if that's not available, then it says then one should follow one's own conscience, right? It's interesting that we in the Western world we start with conscience, right? But this is a very different flavor, traditional way. So we start with however we find out what dharma is. Right, one of Ma's name is dharma-niṣṭhā. She is fixed in dharma. So either she's following dharma, right? In her stories, in actually each one of her stories, the classical story in the scriptures, she's following dharma perfectly, right? If dharma means the way things are, if that's the meaning, then she always acts exactly the way things are. I mean, she's acting according to to nature itself. So, satyavatī, dharma-niṣṭhā, śreṣthā. Let's see what's... Actually, śreṣthā will come, a similar name will come later, śreyasī. Let me double check something here. I don't want to miss anything. Okay. Śreṣthā. Sorry, my notes are on 1,000 names of Kali are now hundreds of pages. See if I can get lost. śreṣthā. So two names will be here, śreṣthā and śreyasī, that name 327. They're related, but we'll start with the śreṣthā. Śreṣthā means best, right? Or superior, or highest, or royal, right? The high end of something in the spectrum, right? Also means like the senior or the oldest, right? And also in aesthetics, it would be the most beautiful, right? And so all these, if you were to go through each one of these type of definitions, these are very nice ways to describe the Divine Mother. The Kali specifically, God and the Divine in general. She's the best and the highest, right? Royal also. So actually, between most beautiful and royal, we get ideas like Tripura Sundari, Rajeshwari, the most beautiful in the three worlds, the ruler of the three worlds, right? Describes that by her sidelong glances, trillions of universes come into being. You know, like the way of glorifying at the highest, best possible thing, the highest end. śreṣthā. Niṣṭhura-vādinī. Niṣṭhura-vādinī. So this one I had a little bit. There's let me find this here. Niṣṭhura-vādinī. There's a. So there's in the Satyananda Devi Mandir publication, this name is something different. I just want to mention that name. Niṣṭhura-Vādinī. No, I see a mistake here. Get this right for historical reason. I want to get this right. Yeah, niṣṭhura-Vādinī, and then the version that I'm tend to favor niṣṭhura-Vādinī. So I think Vādinī is probably more likely the correct version. That's the one I'll comment on, because niṣṭhura-Vādinī, I can't quite make sense of what that could mean. But Vādinī, so niṣṭhura-Vādinī, let's use that version. Vādinī is one who speaks, Vād, speaks, or a Vādinī is a speaker, one who repeats, one who declares, right? Also, musicians have just appeared. It's also a antiquated word for musicians, singers, those who are projecting and singing and like this, right? Also, this Vād means to speak, but also is like Vādinī is also one who declares a teaching, a conclusion. Like you have this term like Advaitavad or Mayavad or Shaktivad, right? Certain types of teachings that are schools of thought, right? So one who carefully declares a school of thought is a Vādinī, right? Niṣṭhura. Niṣṭhura is an interesting, it can general meaning, and we'll take it like this because it's clustered with some words where Ma is now going to be a little fierce forms of Ma are coming, right? So it's actually one whose word means cruel or angry, right? So who's speaking harsh things or cruel things or angry things, right? And of course, if we take this a little ontologically, when people are in that mode speaking harsh, angry words, right? That is also her, right? And also in the stories we hear, if you've seen like in Devanki Dev Mahadev, or these beautiful TV programs, the serials that are done, right? Whenever Ma Kali shows up, she howls and screams, and she accuses people, some demon of doing. You've broken Dharma, I shall kill you and drink your blood. It's like it was jackals screaming in the background. It's done very dramatically. It's trying to give drama to this idea of that she who speaks fiercely, right? Harsh, violent language, right? Cruel, coarse, rugged, these type of ideas, right? So we'll leave that, because other names coming up, Bhima Nandini, Bhima Bhayankari, she who is fearful, and there's lots of these words. This cluster is introducing, okay, it's not introducing, but the fierce side of Ma, right? So what's the next word? We want to move through these today. And śreṣthā, niṣṭhura-vādinī, then gariṣṭhā. So gariṣṭhā means like heavy, or most heavy. I'm saying most heavy, heaviest. How do you say most heavy in English? Heaviest, right? The heaviest something. Actually, but heavy like as in like I have to say like heavy as in weight, but like I'm talking like almost like a poetic use of heavy, like the word guru means heavy too, right? One's like, oh, you sometimes you're like, oh, that was heavy. That it was like there's a lot there, a lot of weight there. It's like heavy both in weight and in pounds, right? But heavy is in presence, or in knowledge, or in importance, or in effect, right? Or maybe in angry speech. It was like, whoa, that she really let me have it. That was heavy, something like that. She's heavy, right? Mm-hmm. Heavy also, gariṣṭhā also here means it has the idea of most, so most heavy. It also means most important out of all things. It's the weight, like we use that in English also, like where do you give the most weight, in a topic, or like, oh, give that one the most attention, right? Or the most venerable out of all things that we should take seriously, right? We should take her very seriously, right? And in that also there's in poetic usage also, like she who is, I mean, ghṛṇā is dignified and honorable, like that, noble. Right? So she's heavy. She speaks harshly, right? But why? So the next name, duṣṭa-saṃhartī. Duṣṭa-saṃhartī. Duṣṭa means wickedness, right? And saṃhartī, my tongue is not working today, forgive me. Saṃhartī means destroyer. She destroys wickedness. And of course, in so many of the stories, when we see these, especially these, I turn around, Ma's beautiful, covered in garlands and Varanasi sari and silk and gold, right? But so when you think of Kali very often in some of the images, like when she appears in the Chandi and other texts, she appears on the battlefield ready to destroy some demon, to confront and destroy some demon that has committed some great crime against the gods, against nature, against her children, something like that, overstepped. And so she comes to destroy them, right? So she destroys, many of these names are coming, she comes to destroy the wicked and wickedness. And so, of course, you know, we don't always like to think of God as a destroyer, right? And in many religions, also, God is usually God will fight for us, right, or tell us to fight, right? And usually and God always fights for our side somehow, right? So this is tricky because who is she fighting? She's not fighting our enemies. She really is fighting our enemies, but who is she really fighting? In the Chandi, for instance, there's a line that says that both gods and demons touch your feet, right? So both gods and demons are worshiping her, right? And she herself is Mahadevi Mahasuri, as she's described, right? She is the great goddess and the great demoness, right? She's the full spectrum, right? So when she comes to fight the demons, right, she's not fighting something that's other than her, right, or other than hers. Maybe something other than her, but not other than hers, right? And so it's that even and in the Shakrari Stuti, the first hymn of the Chandi, Devi Mahatmyam, Indra and the gods, they say something very beautiful. He says, these gods have done enough sin to warrant long suffering in hell. That's what their karma. They've done such horrible things, right? But you think, let them find their death by my hand, by my weapons of my hands. Let me kill them, and thus liberate them. So they'll attain not hell, but liberation. The thing that yogis strive for tens of thousands of years, right? They will attain just by being killed by Devi's hand. He says, you have, the gods are praying or saying what they think the Devi thinks, right? He says that you have such compassion even for these enemies, for our enemies, right? But you're destroying them it's for their good. You'll liberate them, right? Because left to their own, they just get darker and darker. So actually, even her destroying wickedness, or the wicked, or wickedness, is to liberate it, right? And also, it's like, we get the wicked. Nobody's all wicked. Even the demons aren't all wicked, right? Mythologically, perhaps, right? But also wickedness. We can think of that also. That we can think of in the stories of the Devi Mahatmya where the goddess is fighting the demons. These are horrible demons. They get killed, and now we don't have them. Great, right? But the story has been, and maybe should be also taken internally, metaphorically, right? That the demons can represent aspects, our own inner obstacles and enemies, right? And there's a long tradition of that interpretation, and I think it's quite warranted. I think it's intentional, because some of the names of the demons are the ones we use, Dhumralochan, right? One demon is that who has smoke-covered eyes, right? So it doesn't take a huge jump to think maybe that means spiritual blindness or ignorance or something like this, right? And you got Durmukh, one who has foul speech, right? So you can see these are, you can think these, the different demons can be easily interpreted, right? If we're inclined to do so, right? As inner qualities that can be removed, right? In and of themselves, they're not that bad, actually, right? A little bit of blindness is not that bad, right? But when blindness ruins one's life, then it's bad, right? I've said this before, there's a very powerful, bone-chilling line that to me is the way I interpret the whole Chandi stories, or a series of stories. It starts out when Indra was lord of heaven, a lord of the gods, and Mahisha was lord of the demons. So it starts. That's how it's like. There was a great battle that lasted 1,000 years or 100 years, right? It means the life of man, right? That's a symbolic number for the last one's life, right? So at which point, Mahisha defeated Indra and sat on Indra's throne. So Mahisha, the buffalo demon, lord of the demons, and Indra, the lord of heaven, the lord of the gods, king sitting on his throne. That's how it's supposed to be. That's not. It's difficult enough. You have they're antagonistic forces, and it's not an easy way to live with each other, right? But the situation that happened, due to a long, complicated story, Mahisha stood on Indra's throne, and Indra was chased away. That is unbearable. You can't have a low quality demon sitting on the very throne of our personality, right? That becomes unbearable, right? So these qualities aren't even duṣṭa qualities are not so bad. They have their place, right? But when they get control, right, then something has to give. And in the stories, the gods remember the Devi who comes and saṃhartī, she destroys the wicked. Where are we? Satyavatī dharma-niṣṭhā śreṣṭhā niṣṭhura-vādinī gariṣṭhā duṣṭa-saṃhartī viśiṣṭā śreyasī ghṛṇā. Viśiṣṭā. Viśiṣṭā literally means particular or differentiated or specific, right? And in that sense also it can like respectable, important, distinguished. But the literal meaning of the word is that which it's been differentiated. There's a difference, right? So it could say out of all goddesses, out of all realities, out of all tattvas, Kali is specific. It's something distinct, right? There is, amongst the goddess traditions, Kali is a distinct goddess as well. You can say things like that, something to be taken seriously. She's heavy, she's fierce, all those, she's dignified, all the things that that's important, right? All those things. But here it's like, but I think it may be, it's just the name viśiṣṭā is there, but it's an opportunity to describe perhaps an important aspect of Shakta philosophy also, right? So there's a school of Vedanta, right? Of course, there's many schools of Vedanta. And usually, often in the West, when we say Vedanta, we mean Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta, and by Advaita Vedanta, we mean Advaita Vedanta of Shankaracharya and his scholastic school, right? But that's not the only school of Vedanta. In response, partially due to the success of Shankara's Advaita Vedanta, right, there was a lot of pushback, philosophical pushback. Not marking on the. Okay. Making sure. I used to mark all my pillows. I'm good. Good. So there's viśiṣṭā Advaita is one form of Advaita, right? And there's others called there's Shuddha Advaita, Then there's Dvaita Vedanta, right? There's like dualistic Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta means non-dualistic Vedanta. So Shankara has, we usually call Advaita, he just called that Advaita Vedanta. But there's Ramanuja, was an important theologian, a preacher who propagated viśiṣṭā Vedanta. Viśiṣṭā Advaita, actually. So it's an Advaita Vedanta that held that there's still distinction. It's everything is one, but there's still some distinction and relationship within the one. Then there's Dvaita Vedanta, which is a clear, amplified by Madhvacharya, that there is a clear distinction, absolute categorical distinction between different categories. Like the categories are of Ishvara, God, of Jiva, the individual, of the world, the material world, like that. These are, and the distinctions are absolute and non-negotiable. They're not symbolic or anything. They're real, right? There's many forms of Vedanta, but viśiṣṭā, since the name, it's an interesting school that I think sometimes gets overlooked, and I think actually in our in the Ramakrishna tradition, when we say Vedanta, it's not pure Advaita Vedanta of Shankara generally, right? For the most part, right? I sometimes say that Swami Vivekananda did not. He used the vocabulary of Shankara's Advaita, but he used it in his own way. He didn't use the terms the way it philosophically was used, right? And Ayan Maharaj Swami Medhananda has written a beautiful book describing Sri Ramakrishna's teachings as Vijnana Vedanta, a particular way of thinking of Vedanta, right? Sometimes we can take that's very technical and sophisticated. We've discussed it before, and we'll discuss it more in the future. But with some of the way Sri Ramakrishna presented philosophically, right, and kind of also like a tantric a way of using Vedantic language to describe tantric ontology, he sometimes used the language of viśiṣṭā Advaita, right? So viśiṣṭā Advaita is non-duality with distinction. Like Advaita Vedanta, the truth of non-duality, but viśiṣṭā with distinction, right? So Brahman is the one reality, right? That's acknowledged. It's like an Advaita Vedanta. But in Advaita Vedanta, if there's only one, there can only be one, philosophically. By definition, there can only be one. Therefore, what about this world of multiplicity? I just said there's only one, so it doesn't exist, right? We see it. No, you're mistaken. You think you see it, but you actually don't see it. You're seeing something that's not there. The example is like a mirage. You think you see water in the desert. There's no water in the desert, right? The mistake is some mistake has been done. Cannot be true. There's no water in the desert. If you see it, you're wrong, right? There is nothing but Brahman. If you see a world, you're wrong. So it denies the world. I'm oversimplifying and slightly parodying for the sake of at least for 15 minutes. I'm gonna have to push for viśiṣṭā because of the name at hand, right? So what about us? What about Jiva? That's Jagat, right? What about Jiva? Well, Jiva is nothing. If there's only Brahman, then the Jiva is also only Brahman. What's the term? The second 1/8 of a verse. Jagat Mitra Brahmaeva Naparaha. And the Shankara, a verse attributed to Shankara is that Brahman alone is real, this world is unreal, and the individual, the Jiva, is nothing but that Brahman. That's my guru has had it chiseled in marble and hung in our ashram. So it's an important philosophical center of Vedanta, right? So it was important to him. It's very embarrassing that I didn't immediately remember it, right? So the Jiva, then what about us? We're nothing but Brahman, right? That's a pure Advaita. Viśiṣṭā Advaita says, no, there is only Brahman, but there's also Ishvara, there's also God, the personal God, right? And there's also us, the Jiva, right? That we're also there. And there's also this world. All these three together constitute Brahman, right? Within the one, there is at least three, right? Not like a trinity or something like that, but there's there's categories, there's variety, there's specificity within the one that can't be ignored. You can still have one. Right? Actually, it says that Ishvara, the technical is Ishvara, Jeev, and Jagat. Ishvara means God, the controller, right, the source, and Jiva is the individual soul, and us, us, and Jagat means this world. So there are some 4 or 5 key ways of understanding distinction. And we say, oh, like in the Upanishad, it does in fact say, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. Right? Tattvasi, thou art that. Right? I am Atman Brahman. The self is Brahman. Right? These verses are there. So we cannot deny, as a school of Vedanta, it's interpreting the Upanishad. They cannot deny these statements, but there has to be. But they try to understand what it could possibly mean. Right? They say that within there are these particularities, viśiṣṭā. What are these differences? I'll give you the classic ones. There's let me get it right here. Shariri. Sharira means this body, and shariri means the soul in the body. Just like we're one. I'm one with my body, but I'm not. They're not identical. So this world is itself of Jiva and Jagat is considered the body of God. Right, and we are we're, so that means we're the body of God, Jiva, and this world is the body of God, and God indwells in it. So there's a distinction of one who dwells in the body and the body itself. Right, there's dravya and guna. There's the substance of something and its qualities. The substance of Brahman is the thing itself, and we are the gunas, the qualities of that Brahman. Right, there's amsi and amsa. There's the whole and the part. So obviously, like if Brahman is the whole, I can't say when I say Aham Brahmasmi, I can't say that I am the whole. Here I am, little Bhajanananda. Within little Bhajanananda in Aham Brahmasmi, I'm still speaking the truth, right? Maybe it's like I say Aham and the entire universe comes, right? Maybe that's a particular level of realization. But viśiṣṭā is holding that we kind of the idea of whole apart like a spark of like a flame within a fire, or sunlight in the sun. You can say if the sun, open the blinds and let the sun in. So, and when the sunlight comes, the sun rays come into the room, you say the sun has entered the room. But if the sun entered the room would burn. We'd be dead in a second, right? There's still a distinction between the sun and a part of the sun, but there's no real distinction. Where's the distinction between the sunlight and sun, or between fire and its heat? Right, the thing itself and its rays, and its amsa and amsi. There's viśiṣṭā and viśaya. Means I may be getting the long and short A's wrong. I didn't write those down. Means a subject and object. That's a big distinction. There is a distinction between subject. Even if there's one thing, there seems to be within that reality a subject and organ. Right, and then there's like an organism. These are the examples that are given: organism and an organ, right? We're part like an organ is part of an organism. It's not the whole thing, but it's one. It's one and different. That's the thing, right? So with all these relationships of like where the body and God is the soul, Thakur says like that. I am the I am the chariot. You are the charioteer. I am the instrument. You are the operator. Right, so we use that language, right? Or of an attribute of the substance, or a part of the whole, or the organ of an organism. Within those examples, that lends itself to a personal conception, the possibility of a personal God, because these relationships can be easily understood as son, father, mother, sister, wife, husband, friend, lover, lord, servant, master. Right, so the devotional schools have tended to have appreciated this viśiṣṭā type of view. So Swami Ambikananda has translated, in his translation of the Kathāmrita, has a section from the Gospel Sri Ram. The text that was translated as the Gospel Sri Ramakrishna, the original Sri Ramakrishna Kathāmrita. In the first volume, Sri Ramakrishna is talking to, I think, Swami Vivekananda, right? Sri Ramakrishna. And then I can't say anything if I don't come down 2 steps. So obviously he's at the highest level, he can't, this is beyond words. But if he brings his mind down, then he can speak something about God, right? Most likely, you accept me just this section. It says, Vedanta, the kind that Shankara taught. I just described Shankara's Vedanta, right? That kind of harsh Advaita, right? Right? There's that. There's that too. And then there's also, so there's Shankara's Vedanta, but there's also Ramanuja's doctrine of qualified non-dualism, viśiṣṭā, right? The viśiṣṭā. Narendra, Swami Vivekananda. What is viśiṣṭā? What is qualified non-dualism? So this is Sri Ramakrishna's educating Swamiji, right? Sri Ramakrishna to Narendra. Qualified non-dualism, viśiṣṭā. I always say viśiṣṭā, right? Is the opinion of Ramanuja. Brahman is qualified by living beings and the universe. So Brahman is qualified by Jiva and Jagat, right? Everything is rolled together as one. You take them all together, you end up with Brahman, the reality, the one, right? It is like a bell fruit. We use bell leaves for puja. You ever seen many Indians here know the bell fruit? It's a big, beautiful, we have a bell tree at our ashram. Once in a while, in the middle of a dramatic conversation, crack, you see one of them hits you on the head. It could crack your head too, but it's this big thing. And they make, inside of it, there's wonderful meat within there's seeds and meat and things like that within it. And that can make, it's very tasty, very good for the stomach. And they make a sorbet type of thing for Shivaratri coming. It's a very auspicious, tasty fruit, right? It's like the bell fruit. Someone separated the shell and separated the seeds and separated the flesh. First you have the hard shell, right? You break that open, and inside there's all these seeds. You pick all the seeds. What you want is the flesh. That's what's edible. When you think, oh, go to the store and get a bell fruit, you're sending them to the store to get the flesh. You're going to make something with it, right? So once separated, but they needed to know how much the bell fruit weighs, right? Now, if they only weigh the flesh, can they get the weight of the bell fruit? The shell, the seeds, and the flesh, everything has to be weighed together. To get the proper weight, you need to have all 3, not just one. Right? At first, it seems that only the only essential thing of value is the flesh, and not the shell, not the seeds. Then after reasoning, you see that the thing to which the flesh belongs is the same thing to which the shell and the seeds belong. In the beginning, you have to use neti. Neti is this, not this, right? Right. You have to use the neti approach. Living beings, neti. Mehula Shankara's view. Jiva, neti. The universe, jagat, neti. Not like that. You have to reason in this way. Only Brahman is real and everything else is unreal. Then you have the experience that the thing to which the flesh belongs is the same thing to which the shell and seeds belong. That from the same one you're calling Brahman, comes living beings and the universe. The Leela belongs to the same one to whom the Nitya belongs. Now, Thakur is using Vaishnava terms of Nitya and Leela, but he's using it in his own way. Here, you have to be careful. I'm not claiming I understand how Thakur is using it. It seems Nitya here means like Brahman, the one without a second, beyond, like that. And Leela is the world of Jiva Jagat, the world of us and this, right? Right. The one you're calling Brahman comes living being. The Leela belongs to the same one to whom the Nitya belongs. And so Ramanuja would say that Brahman is qualified by living beings and the universe. This is called qualified non-dualism, or viśiṣṭā. Right? So we have to think, right, is if in this particular name, Ma is being described as viśiṣṭā, right? How is Kali distinct, particular, peculiar, right, and distinguished? Right, she is herself the principle in Tantra. She herself, Shakti, is the principle of distinction. how the one becomes many, or the one appears as many, or the is through its own shakti, swatantriya shakti, its own shakti. The one nature is to manifest. The one, in order to be the one, has to have something to experience, right? Part of Satchitananda, that's the chit part, the conscious part, requires something to be conscious of. That her becoming a world in which to reflect her own consciousness, that itself is Shakti, right? She is a principle of viśiṣṭā, distinction and particularity, right? And in the devotional tradition, we feel we're definitely her. We're one with her, right? But we're also not exactly her, right? So Sri Ramakrishna used to use that language as like, I want to taste sugar, not be sugar, right? And so let's use these categories that viśiṣṭā uses. She is the whole. We can say like, she is the whole, and we are her parts, right? We are a part of her, right? Or she is the original, and we are remnant from her, right? We are part of her body, and she is the one who owns this body and who is within this body. She is the controller, and we're the controlled. We use that language a lot, right, in the devotional world, right? So, let's see. I think this is a good. We're past our 10 minutes past 6:30. Satyavatī dharma-niṣṭhā śreṣṭhā niṣṭhura-vādinī gariṣṭhā duṣṭa-saṃhartrī viśiṣṭā śreyasī ghṛṇā. So next time maybe after some time. Next week we have we're closed after 4th of July. Shows you why we're closing. What's the next holiday coming? It's New Year. After New Year. Happy New Year. Wow, okay. We become a little desperate on this. After New Year, temple will close for a few weeks for some construction and some other, and to untangle our brains so we know the difference between New Year's and 4th of July. That's one of the things we need to do. We need a few days to recover. And then in mid January, Revered Swami Chaitananda will be here from St. Louis, and he'll be giving satsangs through the rest of the winter. And then we have up to Shivaratri, Ramakrishna's birthday. So after Shivaratri, we'll continue with śreyasī and ghṛṇā, and the other names, Bhima, Bhayankara, Bhima, Nandini, the next few names. So thank you for your kind attention and patience. Are there any comments or questions? Oh yes.
I always wonder, there's always contradictions in the names.
Yeah.
It confuses me as a person.
Yeah.
Also, the Puranas say something else, and
Yeah.
when I listen to Gospel,
Yeah.
Ramakrishna, he talks on a very
Yeah.
non-societal norms.
Yeah.
So how do you deal as a person with a contradiction view?
Well, one of the things we can think, if there's contradiction, that means she's the one who is full of contradiction. I mean, what does it mean that the contradiction means that neither statement is complete. Either one of them's right and one of them's wrong. That's one thing. If there's, you could say like God is with form and God is without form. These are two big things. So if God's with form, God is not without form. God is without form. You can have that. The simple principle of non-contradiction. There's a contradiction there. One of them's right. Or God is something that's more than form and formless, right? That the concepts of form and formless are insufficient. There are limitations to think of what she actually is, right? That both of these seemingly opposite statements can both be true, right? In as much as we can understand, right? And that what she really is beyond conception. But so we can't think of her. We can never comprehend her. Like some of the names avyakta, she who can't be spoken, right? Yet that's one name out of 1,000. So there's another 999 names that describe her. That one of the descriptions that she can't be described, right? So we benefit by thinking about these things, by these opposites, perhaps even, like in these names. And next week there's like she who is. I mean, the big thing that we'll find, especially with Kali, some of the forms are are fierce. Ugra, other forms are samya, are gentle, right? So, like, is she both? Or is of course, humans can be both. My mom was both fierce and gentle. Maybe maybe you've had this experience, right? Right. But also, but can my mom be both with and without form? Right. Right. That's more complicated, right? The concepts are insufficient. So there's a line last week or 2 weeks ago we meditated or shared from the Kali attributed to Shankara. Swamiji, what's the last what your real form is? What's the Sanskrit? Swarupam Tvariya. What your real form is, what your Swarupa is, that even the devas, even the gods, they don't understand, right? So that means that therefore all of us should just shut up, right? That's how he actually in the same verses in the Kalikastakam, he describes, I can't help myself to speak these things, right? It's like what I understand, which I know we cannot understand you fully, with your real nature, but we cannot help but think of you, right? And even thinking about that, this is our favorite. This is one of Amikananda's really favorite verse, right? We all love this. This verse is very intoxicating, right? The very verse that says we can't understand, even the gods don't understand her, right? To me, that makes it more exciting. So I think this is something we haven't mentioned in our Sahasranāma classes. We mentioned many times working through it, not recently, that these names are not, they're describing her, but they're also they're hinting at something that's mysterious, right? They're naming the mystery. The names aren't conclusive. Like, oh, now you named her, now you understand her, right? Swami Shivananda from Rishikesh, he says, to define God is to deny God, right? He's like so these aren't they're hinting at her. They're pointing us to aspects of it, to think of it this way. It's like, oh, you think you got that? Now think the opposite of that. Right, and how did that? And slowly we're allowed to think of the one that's literally beyond thought, right? And this is the genius, because she's the thinker, not the thought. She's the subject, not the object, right? But we make through Sahasranāmas and mantras and names and rupa, nama, rupa and guna and lila and dhamma and all these ways of thinking, right? We can think. We think about one that can't. We think about the thinker. We think them beyond thought also, right? So so that's how I take it. That it's what is it? There's a line by Whitman. What is it? I contain contradictions, or I'm so large I contain contradictions, right? Something like. It's embarrassing that one of my favorite poets growing up, but I already forgot the line. I'm out of practice. I contain contradictions. So I think Ma, especially out of all the forms of God, is her specialty is challenging our conceptions. When we think we got her, some new revelation will come, some new name will come, that then realize we don't fully understand her, right? But we should try. Jai Mahadev, thank you. All right.
I want you to have the
I'll do that. Cold incarnate. लक्ष्मीनारायणाभ्यं नमः उमामहेश्वराभ्यं नमः वन्यहिरण्यगर्भाभ्यां नमः सुन्दराभ्यां सुदेवताभ्यो ghṛṇāपिताभ्यो नमः वासुदेवताभ्यो नमः प्राणपिताभ्यो सरस्वताभ्यो सर्वमङ्गलमङ्गल्यं वारिण्यां वरदं शिवं नारायणं नमस्कृत्य सर्वकर्मणि ॐ ऐं तत्त्वं श्रयामि स्वाहा ॐ ह्रीं विद्युतत्वं श्रयामि स्वाहा ॐ ह्रीं शिवतत्त्वं श्रयामि स्वाहा ॐ ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं सर्वतत्त्वं श्रयामि स्वं विष्णुं ता विष्णुपरमं परमतदा चक्रवादिनम् ॐ इदं नावेदमहाकालभैरवसहित ॐ ह्रीं समदक्षिणकालिकायै देव्यै महादेव्यै नमः एकपादं नमः महाकालभैरवसहित ॐ ह्रीं कृष्णकलिकायै देव्यै दर्शयामि नमः दक्षिणेश्वरी दक्षिण काली की जय भगवंत रामकृष्ण परमहंस देव की जय जगन्माता श्री शारदा देवी की जय युगाचार्य स्वामी विवेकानंद महाराज जी की जय पूर्णा तीर्थरक्षेश्वर धाम की जय नमः पार्वती पते हर हर शिव शंभो। संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ॐ जननीं शरणं देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं वरपद्मेतयो श्रेष्ठा प्रणमामि नमो रामकृष्ण कृष्ण रामचन्द्राय कृष्ण रामचन्द्राय रामकृष्ण देवाय रामकृष्ण रामकृष्ण कृष्ण रामचन्द्राय कृष्ण रामचन्द्राय
She willing to play with me? Just see.
Okay.
कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्घ्रये राधा कृष्ण 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 राधा Govinda Radha Ramana Radha Ramana Radha Ramana 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 Radhe Krishna 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 Radha 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 Krishna Radhe Krishna Radhe Krishna Radhe Krishna Radha Krishna Radha Krishna Radha Krishna Radha Krishna Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anatanata Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Anatanata Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anatanata Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Anatanata Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe Govinda Vrindavana Chanda Anatanata Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Anatanata Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Anatanata Dina Bandhu Radhe Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Radhe Govinda Jai Jai Shri Radhe Jai Jai Shri Radhe Jai Jai Shri Radhe Radhe Govinda
Keep playing. It's so nice to hear you play.
Is it really?
It's so great.
Okay.
We have a real drummer. Yay!
all the way from Vermont. He's coming back again in a few weeks.
I haven't played in like 9 months though. So.
So even out of practice, you're better than enough practice. जय भगवान श्री रामकृष्ण देव की जय स्वामी जी महाराज की जय माँ दक्षिणेश्वरी भवतारिणी दक्षिण काली की जय जय माँ।
You should practice, my darling. Please. You should just
Have you
take a
given the
couple.
remark review, can I think I've